Awesome. So just regarding the questions before we get into it, you can see I'm dead chilled about everything. Please, there is not a daft question. So if you're thinking, oh, I really want to ask something, just ask it. Honestly, I've asked some questions before, which I look back and think, that was a choice one. So don't hold back. Use the time that you've got. So I'm just going to share my screen because that's a thing to do on Zoom, apparently. And then you can see a picture of me pre-lockdown when I brushed my hair. There we are. So public speaking, presenting yourself. So we're going to go through pitching, presenting, communicating with confidence and with clarity, because it's half the battle knowing what you want to say, but more important, knowing that your audience are receiving the information. So just a little bit about me, personal development, communications. I work with corporations, I work individually, and I also run courses on this kind of work. As I said to you, my background was as a professional actor and as a singer. And now I work in the daytime doing personal development with individuals and in companies. And on an evening, I still work with professional singers, your West End and your recording guys, on voice rehabilitation. So a little bit of a different side to everything. So why is it important for you guys and for any entrepreneur, any new business, anyone interested in the industry to have a confident and engaging speaking tone and presentation? So here are some of the things that I often get told from people that are looking at speaking and development. It's to look at self-confidence, to improve communication skills, improve listening skills, which is really interesting. Leadership, if you're looking at getting a team on board eventually. Being able to network. We're kind of safe at the moment because we're in this kind of COVID webinar space, but when that goes and you're back in that room, you need to be able to hold yourself and deliver and be confident in your service, your product, whatever that is. Building rapport. You know, when you've been somewhere and you meet someone and you just think, I've just clicked with them straight away. It doesn't have to be a one-off. We can make that happen every time you meet somebody. So those rapport skills are really important to get you memorable and to get you out there, and so that everyone's talking about you and your service. Mentoring, if you've ever been interested in mentoring, being mentored. Obvious one, career advancement, dealing with pressure, and sales. At the end of the day, you need to sell your product or your service. So you've got to put it out there with confidence. So just a few reasons why you might want to become a confident and engaging speaker. One of my other ones is so you're not boring when you talk. I mean, we've all been on webinars. Let's be honest. Health and safety videos, number one of, oh my God, I wish I hadn't come on this call. Absolutely boring. So you don't want to be that person. You don't want to get to the end of a webinar and see the participants dropping off like flies because they cannot stand to listen to it anymore. You want everyone engaged and listening. So that's another thing we're going to come on to. So where does this idea of, oh my God, I'm doing a presentation, I'm nervous as hell, come from? Well, it comes from, and I'm not going to go on this too much because I'm sure you're all aware, but it's basically that fight or flight idea. So obviously when we were tribal animals back in the prehistoric times, we stuck together in packs. We stayed as tribes. We didn't go out of our communities because it was dangerous. If you leave your tribe, if you go away from your pack, you might get eaten by a lion or lost and die in a forest. Now, I don't know where you guys live. I mean, I am Stockport, so there is a chance of that up here, to be quite fair. But I'm hoping that isn't going to happen to you guys. If you kind of go out there, you're not going to get attacked or eaten by a lion or freeze to death. But inherently we have that built in with us because that's, again, it's that evolution. We have that nerve inside us, that fight, flight or freeze. So when you're putting yourself out there, when you're pitching, when you're speaking to people you're not overly comfortable with, we might get that kind of, oh, I feel really uncomfortable here. And that's why. So it's not your fault. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It's just being aware. So that can feel like vulnerability outside your comfort zone. Everyone talks about imposter syndrome, this idea of, I'm an imposter, I can't do it. It's a bit of a buzzword. I've got mixed views on what that looks like. But again, feeling like you're being judged. What if it goes wrong? What if this happens? Looking at the risks. What if I'm found out? God knows what you'd get found out for. But we go through all of these things in our mind of, because especially you guys are younger. So that used to play in my mind of people that listen to me because they'll just see me as the young kid. And especially when you get these older business guys that refer to you as, oh, the young kids have got a new idea. Absolutely not. So it's just making sure that you're confident in yourself. Now, how can that present? Nervousness. That can you can look at voice loss. So from I said to you guys, I do a lot of anatomy with the voice. There's a ring of muscles that sits around here. Now, if when you're nervous, you find that you're kind of getting that swallowing, your speech is a little bit unclear, it just feels a little bit difficult, there's an anatomical reason, and it's a ring of muscle that squeezes in response to stress or to anxiety. It's exactly the same muscle that squeezes when you're in the cinema and you don't want to cry in front of someone, and you get that kind of lump in the throat. It's the same muscle. It's called an aryepiglottis sphincter. You're never going to need that word. It just makes me sound semi-educated. But that's the ring of muscle, and it squeezes. So that's where the voice loss comes from. Avoidance. A lot of people, again, that I deal with just won't do it. They just won't pitch. They won't present. They won't go for that interview, that promotion. They just won't do it. Being passive and agreeing. We've all sat on calls and gone, yeah, that's a really good idea. In the back of your head, you're thinking, what an absolute plonker. It's being able to speak out. Anxiety, sweating, irritability, sleeplessness, being a bit bitter. So when you're seeing people, especially on social media, and it's fine, we all go through it, and it doesn't mean you're a bad person, but if you're on social media and you're seeing her or him or whoever putting themselves out there, and we get that, oh, what are they doing? Why are they doing that? Just a little bit of like a bitterness about it. And it's nothing to do with them. It's just a projection from ourselves that we're not comfortable ourselves. And that's fine. You can get through it. Obviously, today we are limited for time, and how I would normally work is we look at the underlying fear or worry that or belief that you've got, that you're not good enough, or you can't do this, or what if you get found out? We look at where that comes from, because at some point in your life that served you well. So let's say you were really, really intelligent at school. I'm sure you all were. Let's say you're really, really academic at school, and you saw that the academic kids that spoke out, so that spoke in class or spoke up, got picked on, or they'd get name called, or they'd get ostracized in a certain way, let's say. You've seen that, so you're going to decide, right, well, I can see what happens there, so I won't speak out. And what happens is you didn't get picked on. So you create a positive feedback loop. Oh, great. So if I don't speak out, I won't get picked on. Great, cool. And we just create that loop, and it gives us a belief that by not speaking out, that means we're going to be safe. When you're coming to a new environment here and you need to speak out, you've got that belief. It's the same, and the best example I use is, imagine you got bitten by a dog. You then believe that dog equals bad. So every time you see a dog, you're going to avoid, and you're not going to go near it. Why would you? But it's about taking all the influences and all the external factors about the situation and creating the reality around it. So again, we all know in school, the kids that did the picking on were the ones that were struggling themselves, all of that kind of stuff. It's bringing the reality to the situation and making sure that you realize it's not about you. So again, when I do all my courses and the more in-depth work with the clients, that's what we look at, and how we can relearn our responses. However, right now, I want to give you a few little tips that you can take away today that'll be useful. It's not about I. When you're presenting, when you're pitching, when you're doing a video for LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever it is you're doing, brutal as it sounds, it's not about you, and it's not about me. It's not about us. It's about your audience. The best way I can describe it is, you do not go into Tesco's going to judge Tesco's. You go to get a product. You're going to get your sandwich, or you're going to get your lunch, or whatever it might be. When people come to your presentations, when they invite you to pitch, when you put information out there, the reason that people watch or click on it or consume your content is because they want to receive something. They're not sat there thinking, oh, I hope this is a bit naff, or oh, I wonder what this is all about. Nobody wants to waste time, so we don't watch it if we're not interested. So if someone's coming on to look at your content, look at your pitch, your presentation, your work, they want to see it. So what you need to be thinking is not about, oh, what if I look like this? What if I look silly? What if I do this? I don't want to say something wrong. Look at it from your audience's point of view and start asking yourself, what problem does my audience have? So if you're selling an organizational system, let's say you're trying to sell an organizational system that you've created, what problem does your audience have? Now, they might be just interested, but they don't know the extent of the problem that they've got. So the reason they're on the call is, oh, that's interesting, a new organizational, like a CRM or something like that, a new system. So you need to be highlighting to them the problems of their current system. So are you struggling with this, that, and the other? Is it costing you more? Are you having to put more time into it? So find out what problem the audience has, what's difficult, what's really grinding their gears about it, and make them aware of it. They might not know how much it's holding them back. So let them know. We can save you time. Are you getting really frustrated? Are you spending money where it's not needed? Have you got employees that you don't need? It's all these things that are ticking on with your CEOs and your directors going, okay, that's a cost I could get rid of, or that's something I could get rid of. So you're looking at what problem your audience has and make them aware of it. How does it impact their business? So how does that problem impact their business, and how are you going to solve it? So again, it's not about us looking daft, looking stupid. It's about how your audience receive the information. So how can we make sure that they know you can solve their problem? How do they receive the information the best? If you're talking to a bunch of creatives, artists, whatever that might be, musicians, anything like that, throwing a load of data out there isn't the best way they communicate. However, if you're doing a pitch to accountants or somebody who works with data, with facts, with numbers and spreadsheets, talking about how it's going to feel and how emotionally connected, probably isn't going to be on the same wavelength. So looking at your audience and thinking, how do they communicate? Is it facts? Is it figures? Is it emotive language? How do they receive information the best? And tailoring your work to that. And how will they know when that problem is solved? So give them an outcome. So, your CRM at the end of this, or your organizational system, it'll be slick, it'll be this, you'll create more time, more passive income. Let them know what it'll feel like when you've solved their problem. So whatever you're selling, whatever you're promoting, how will they know when it's solved and when your work is done? So again, it's taking it away from being, oh my God, I don't want to walk in this room because everyone's looking at me, and what if I screw up? They need something and you're going to give it to them. So it's basically trying to tailor it and say to them, look, I'm aware of your problems. This is how I can help, as opposed to thinking everybody's staring at me, because they want something. They don't want to go through loads of pitches. It's like job interviews. With every job interview, I sit on the panel for them. With every job interview, we hope that the next person is the perfect person. Because I don't want to sit there through another 30 people. I don't want to do 3 weeks of it. I want the dream person to come in. So when they come in, I'm not looking for faults. I'm looking for them to be the perfect person. And that's exactly how you want to be looking at communication. So how can we do that? We need you to be engaging. I'm just checking the time. Yeah, we're good. We need you to be engaging. So we need your content to be relevant. You know that. You know what you're delivering. You know what your services are. Your content is relevant. You wouldn't be pitching meat to a vegan factory. It's pointless. So making sure that your content is relevant, make sure it's interesting, and the message is delivered. So it's looking back on that previous slide about the idea of what are the messages here. So how does it impact their business, their values? So just making sure that their message is delivered and you're solving their problem. And now this is where it gets fun on the sense of rapport. So this comes down to when you meet somebody and you just click and you just get on. Now, when you're pitching, presenting, or putting a video out there on whatever it is, or having a conversation at a networking event, you've got a finite amount of time. So you can't sit there and get everyone's backstory, get to know them, realize that you've got long lost cousins that went to the same school. Doesn't work like that. So what you need to do is create rapport. Now, I've put down 4 quick ways to build rapport with people. First of all, body language. So if you're going into a meeting and you're met with someone like me who's fairly, we'll use the word expressive. Some might say eccentric, but fairly expressive. If you were pitching to me and I'm saying to you, hi, it's nice to meet you, I'm Kathy, make yourself at home, get comfy, or at a networking event, I'm saying, oh, how are you? And I'm quite alive and dynamic. And you're really, really closed off and very, very wooden. And that's not on my level. Now, what I mean by that is people like people. So if you think about the people that you're closest to, there's a high chance you're very similar in rapport, in vocal expression, body language, in your what we call a system, in the systems that you see the world as. So by mirroring somebody's body language, you're instantly going to help that rapport. That does not mean literally copying them and trying to do like some kind of musical statue thing. Please don't do that. It'd be hilarious to watch, but please don't do that. But if you've got someone who's dynamic, then maybe get your shoulders back, open your chest out a bit more, be a little bit more open with your body language. So if you're on a call and you've got someone who's really firing ideas around and you're sat there like that, you're not going to come across as engaged as they are. So just change your body language. It's tiny little things, changing your body language to suit your audience. And again, it always comes back to, what do your audience need? They need to feel valued. They need to feel like you're cooperating with them. Therefore, get on their wavelength, use their body language, shoulders back, arms, gesticulate, use your face, however that might look for you. Now, the next one, coming on to vocal expression, really, really important. You don't want to sound boring. So if you're passionate about something, you want to mirror that vocal expression. For example, you can already hear that I'm quite up and down and theatrical. If I went onto a call and I was met with somebody who was talking to me like this, and their product does this, and it does that, and it's really good, I'm done. I'm not going to listen to that because it doesn't pick up with me. Now you could already hear how your prospects, your clients, your network, how they deliver information. And if it's passionate, if they're using a lot of different timbres and vocality in the voice, you want to make sure that you're on their same wavelength because they want to be met with that same energy. Nobody's going to invest if they don't believe you're on the same wavelength. And the way to get on that wavelength is to be showing that same expressive language through the body and through the voice. So a couple of ways you can do that. And this is where I look absolutely mental. And I'm aware that you are filming this, Charlie, and I could look a little bit daft if you choose to use this. But some people, especially in terms of accents, their tongue, daft as it sounds, can sit quite far back in the voice. So I'm incredibly Yorkshire. But around here in Manchester, we've got accents such as Bolton, Bury, things like that. Now, their tongues sit quite far back in the voice. So you get a bit of an accent like this. So that kind of Bolton, that kind of Bury accent where the tongue kind of sits back in the throat, really attractive. And it kind of sits back here. Now, what you can do, it sounds ridiculous, is just to get your tongue moving a little bit clearer. Because once you get your tongue further forward, the expression and the tone and the colour of your voice can be expelled. You can be a lot more expressive. So a little technique, if you feel like trying it, is just to try circling your tongue one way 10 times and circling it the other way. This is where I'm going to see how many of you are really invested in this. So just trying a 10 one way, 10 the other, as quick as you can. Just buying me time to drink coffee, to be honest. Crack on. Did anyone get a bit of an ache? And towards the end, it was a bit like, Jesus, this is yeah. So it's a little bit of tongue root tension. So if your tongue's sat back and you've got a little bit of tension there, there's a high chance you're not going to use your jaw and your tongue as much. So you can already see when I pull my tongue back and I don't use my jaw as much, all the colour and tone in my voice is gone. Now imagine you're on an hour and a half webinar with this. I'd honestly fake that I had an internet connection problem because there's not a chance I'm sitting through that. So getting the tongue really loose before you speak. Again, it doesn't mean you want to be going on the webinar going, hello, how are you all? That is not going to be great. But it just means you've got a little bit more expression. And it's almost like warming up before you go for a run or any form of other exercise that you might choose. It's just getting the muscles nice and loose so you can get clear vocal expression. Now, the speed in which you speak is really, really important. Everyone rushes through. They think, oh my God, nobody wants to listen to me. If you rush through, it's because you are not confident in what you're saying, you don't believe in what you're saying, and you don't believe you are worth the time and space of that arena. If you rush through, it's going to make me, it's going to make whoever you're presenting or pitching to believe that you don't have the confidence to own the space. Now, if you think of any TV dramas or theatre shows or anything like that, when you get to the crucial elements, everything slows down and we get these dramatic words and it takes a little bit longer. Now, I'm not saying you want to pretend you're on EastEnders and pitch as if you're kind of going through some great big crime scene, but the idea of just slowing down, taking breaths when you need to, being really, really sure of your content and of the time that you're taking. You don't want to be rushing through because it's making people believe that you're not worth listening to. Also, if you think about how people receive information, there's a little pause there to let people go, oh yeah, next point. Oh yeah, next point. Whereas if you're just throwing information at me, I'm going to be catching what I can. I'm probably going to miss it. And at some point, I'm probably going to go, this is just a bit too much. I'm not going to bother anymore. So the speed is really important. Slow it down. Don't cram too much in there. Take breaths. Make sure you're really relaxed and breathing through. And just let your audience have time to process the information. If you're confident and if you're taking that space, they know that you are established and regarded in what you do. It's not a flustered pitch or presentation because you're desperate for the work, because you're really, you're really nervous and you're really struggling and you're clutching at straws. Take your time. Show them that you are confident in what you do. Do you want to come on as an investor? Do you want to come on as a client? We're really confident here. Join us. So just take your time. And then the other thing here is the keywords for your audience. So if you are selling a pen, let's say, if you're selling me a pen and it's a really bright pen, and the reason I want it is because I need to start highlighting my work because I work in an office and we're still paper-based because we're back in the 90s. Let's say you're selling me that piece of equipment. If you're telling me about this pen and how it writes clearly and it's really good and it just helps you be able to see the content, I can't grab what you're trying to say. However, if you tell me how this pen, it really highlights the important parts of your document and you can really erase it if you need to. It can be used with Macs. You can also use it on a screen, or it's got a fluorescent pink color. So what parts of your pitch, of your presentation are going to make your audience go, oh yeah. If you're selling a really diet tablet, you wouldn't hammer on about, oh, the packaging is really nice. It's a lovely plastic top. It'd be a case of, oh, it tastes incredible. It's got like this fruity texture and it can help you feel amazing and regenerated and revitalized. The words are important because your audience is going to go, that's what I want. That's what I want. So whatever you're selling, pitching, presenting, talking about, have the passion in the product and pick out what words will make the audience go, yes, yeah, that's it. Again, if you're selling, for example, what I do, if I'm going to say to people, you can become a confident and engaging communicator, they're going to sit there and go, confident, engaging, as opposed to you can become a confident, engaging communicator. It's pitching your brand, isn't it? So making sure that your keywords have got emphasis and they've got passion. You need to be passionate about your product, your service, whatever it is you're creating. Because if you're not passionate and if you don't show that passion, why the hell would anyone else care? I hope that's helpful. As you can see, I've put on here, I've got a course running on all of this stuff, which starts in April. Feel free to drop me a message on either LinkedIn, you've got my email on my website and whatnot there. As you can see, Kathy Brooke Coaching, kathybrookcoaching.com, Kathy at Kathy Brooke Coaching. There's a bit of consistency / lack of any invention there, but at least you've got the rough idea. If I can help you with anything, drop me a message on LinkedIn. If you'd like some information about the course that starts in April on all of this stuff, and it also ends with you giving a presentation and a talk, drop me a line. Just keep an awareness of what you're selling and who you're selling to. It's not about us. It's about how you deliver with passion and with conviction. As I say, if you've got any questions, Charlie's got my info anyway. And that is me. I'm going to stop my share so you can see me big.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you, Kathy. That was really, really good. I think absolute pleasure to listen to, dare I say, as well. Like having someone speaking about confidence, public speaking, when they're good at it themselves, really satisfying to listen to as well. I got a couple of questions myself, and then I'll kind of hand over to anyone else here. Of course, if you guys have to drop out too, feel free, of course. The question I've got is, how much of this is mindset versus practice? Like how much of it is before you go into the room versus after you've done 10 different ones you're comfortable with?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because there's so many books you can read, there's so many courses you can do, but if you do it and then don't put it into practice, it's a complete waste of time. So the mindset side of things, if you've got a limitation, that if you've got a belief that you can't do something, or, oh, I just don't do that, I'm not as good as that, no matter how much you practice, you've had that belief since you were a child. So it's going to be very, very difficult to get out of that. Once you've dealt with that belief and you can learn how that is different, or how you can create a new belief, or how the reality of the situation, then it comes on to what you're saying about the repetition. And you're totally right. So as long as that belief is there, as long as you can pull that belief and you can make sure that you're confident in going in the room, then it gets easier. And trust me when I say this, like I started doing webinars when we all did bang on a year ago. And my first one, I felt really eggy with. And then, your second one, you're a bit more like, okay, I've got the hang of this. And you're just going with it. But it's being able to go in with that mindset of, okay, what am I going to deliver? As opposed to, holy shit, I can't do this.
Yeah, so, yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good way of putting it. Like having the framework almost to go in and make the most out of the situation thereafter as well.
Yeah.
Nice one. Well, I'll open it up to anyone else that has any questions. Just unmute yourself and feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to pick on you, so you have to ask something, guys.
Thanks, Kathy. That was a very interesting presentation. Just where you mentioned about rapport, like building rapport with people. Sometimes I think personally for me, depending on the people I'm engaging with, it's not that on a conscious level I want to sound like them, or I want to like have those mannerisms or have that body language like you did say, but at some point it can come off as inauthentic. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah,
in that sense?
you're totally right. And I've seen people do this kind of work, and I see it myself. I mean, when I'm more comfortable with people, you can really hear how northern I am, which is just, it's not good for anyone. But I've been in meetings with people from the south, for example, and they've slipped into these northern accents when they're talking to me, and it's a bit like, what's going on here? You're either taking a piss or you're trying to build some rapport. Either way, I'm not sure how I feel about it. So I get exactly what you're saying. So it's a case of, daft as it sounds, it's almost like a degree of separation. So you don't want to go in and feel inauthentic with it. You want to be thinking, how can I make them feel comfortable? So it's not a case of, right, I need to copy them to build rapport and make it fake. It's a case of framing it in a sense of, how can I make that person feel comfortable? And if they're really, really tense, and if you're really larger than life, that might not make them feel comfortable. So you're going in with a genuine concern or care to make them feel comfortable, as opposed to, I need to force this relationship, like some weird Tinder situation. So yeah,
It makes a lot of sense.
yeah, going in with being genuine. Everyone loves being genuine, don't they? That's how we sell, through being genuine. So if you go in with that genuine care of, how can I make them feel comfortable and listen to me, it gives it a little bit more power than, yeah, kind of Mickey Mouse copying.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Anyone else? Otherwise, I'll pick on you, Augusta.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna slide in to say one thing, that it's interesting to see how, I'm not sure if I picked this up correctly, but is it that one mindset that I know everything while preparing for speech or interview is all I need? Because technically, the fear of interview is quite different from a fear of presentation, since I'm going into presentation knowing what I'm going to say, but in an interview I'm not sure what I'm going to receive, what I'm going to be asked. And do you think that one mindset fits all, one size fits all?
That's a really good question. I'm going to go with yes, purely because then it makes it easier, because you don't have to then think, oh, well, I need to put this hat on for this role or this hat on for this interview. But I think it's going in again with that genuine need. So if I've worked with some interview prep before with a lady, and going in with that idea of not having answers prepped and not having that kind of forced outcome, but going in thinking, how, again, the same thing as we said before, how can I give them what they need? So when they're asking a question, you've got no idea what they're going to come up with, but you know that they need a job filling. You know that there's a role, so you know what gaps are missing in their business, in their organization. So going in with that mindset of, how can I help you? How can I fill that role? How can I be the right person for them? And again, the same kind of principle, and then tailoring your answers to that. So I'd like to say it's that kind of idea. You mentioned mindsets, and I know Charlie knows about and works on this idea of the fixed and the growth mindset as well. I think we mentioned it before. A fixed mindset is very, very common in certain situations, and it's the idea of I can't do that, or the talent or the opportunity is limited. So you go to a certain point and that's it. You can't learn how to do that. It's just how it is. It's how we've always done it. Those scary phrases that you hear. Yeah, but that's how I've always done it. Oh, and whereas a growth mindset is going into a situation thinking, okay, how can I do this? What are the options here? What are the hurdles that come up? A growth mindset is someone who looks at a challenge and relishes in it, as opposed to going, oh my God, I can't do this. So again, you've got two answers there, a long-winded, believe it or not with me, a long-winded answer to your question there of having a growth mindset of going in with the opportunity. What can I gain from this? What can I give them? And then when they're asking you questions, being aware of what they need and filling that need. Because again, and I'm sure you guys have maybe been in this situation where I definitely have years ago, when I've gone into an interview, I've seen the role, I've shown them what they can give, and then they telling me extra, and I'm thinking, oh, actually, I don't want that. That's absolutely not me. Like, no. And that's great. It's important for both parties involved. That's what an interview is. It's for both parties to suss each other out in a weird way. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I guess it's just remembering that they need me just as much as I need them.
Absolutely. You're going to solve a problem. And normally, again, people work with recruiters. Recruiters take a fair chunk of money from businesses. So they're basically paying somebody because they're that desperate to find someone. So you've kind of got the upper hand.
Lest you know it, eh? Lest you know it. Yeah, that's the key. Yeah. And Lucy, have you got a question?
Yeah, so you touched on interviews, and I think I just wanted to know what your advice is for if you're sort of being interviewed. Obviously, you've not got time to prepare, you're being asked questions on the spot. What's your advice if someone asks you something and you just have no idea what to say?
Really good one. My first one with, this is such a cliche thing to say, but it's to take your time. Now, you know, when people ask you things and you go, well, that actually comes from somewhere. And I had to do a lot of research into this from with an NLP specialist that I was working with. So the and that kind of comes from when we were kids and our parents said to us, what are you doing? Why have you done that? Or where's your sister? Whatever your parents might have said to you. As kids, we had to respond. Otherwise, we got either told off or, come on, where have you put that? We had to respond as kids. As adults, we don't, because we're not going to get told off. However, our brains don't know that. So when someone asks us a question, we need to speak. Yeah, it takes a while for your brain to go, let me just grab that information and put that into an answer for you. But we go, I'm just going to answer this with an and then I'll give you some information. So allowing that time to breathe and to literally think, okay, thank you for asking me that. So, giving them a bit of time. Now, I use a principle, and I'm going to put it in the chat, if that's all right, Charlie.
Yeah, go for
it. It's read, just as an anagram so you can remember. And if you want to write it down, R for reply. There's a bit of a given, that one. If someone asks you a question and you know the answer, just, reply. Don't over-engineer that one. E would be to explain. So if someone asks you a question and you're not 100% sure what they're asking you, or you're thinking, oh, I don't really know, ask for more information. So ask for, oh, okay, so how would you use that? Or, I'm sorry, do you mind just clarifying that for me? There's again, it's showing that you've got the integrity and you've got the self-respect to give them a good answer, as opposed to going, well, a bit of this and a bit of that, and kind of waffling around the real answer. Just ask for some more information. So you've got reply, explain. You've also then got expand, which again, if you're in a group situation, you can ask other people. Again, it's a bit different in an interview, but you could expand and say, that's a really good point. I know that my friend over here has got expertise in this, that, and the other. Then your last one is to defer it. So if someone asks you a question and you genuinely are just like, I'm gone, I'm absolutely gone, don't worry, just tell them, just say, do you know what? I'm really struggling to find the answer in my brain right now. Would it be possible for me to drop you an email after this interview with the information? So again, you find this a lot with people who are doing pitching for investors, pitching for certain things, and they ask them for certain figures or statistics or stats, and you don't have them to hand. And it looks really bad going, well, I think last year, because it means you don't have a clue about your business. But if you said, for example, in that situation, do you know what, my accountant deals with all of that, I don't have the figures to hand, but let me get back to you by 10:30 today, and I'll have that email with you. So giving them like a defer. So your first one is just to reply. Second one is, don't be scared to ask for an explanation, or, oh, would you mind just giving me an example of what you mean? Or, I'm sorry, how would that look in your business? Just ask them to explain. Feel free to expand it out, and if there's somebody else there, or putting it back to them. So if they're asking you a question, giving it back to them in the sense of, okay, I see exactly what you say. So in your business, how would that work? And then feel free to just defer it. If you don't know, it's fine. And just be honest. We're all, everyone's human. They know that people get flustered, they get worried. Just give yourself that time to breathe, and then just think, do you mind if I come back to that one? Because for some reason, all the information's in my head and it's just not coming out. So are we all right to come back to that in a minute? It's fine.
Thank you.
All right.
Nice. Yeah, the clarity of like owning it more than anything else and just giving the answer rather than trying to but that's really interesting on the side as well. And I never really thought that before as well. I think just Charlotte, have you got a question left or should we wrap it up now?
No, I think I'm all good. Try not to say the word before.
Becoming super self-conscious.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, definitely. I think we see this on podcasts as well. Even we had one this morning where you ask a difficult question, shall we say, and then they always preface with, "Oh, that's a really good question," to give themselves enough time to then answer it. And it's like absolute classic. You know, you've asked a good one when they put that at the start. It's like, that's good to see as well. But I will end the recording